we always talk about the importance of reading the argument first, right? And making sure that you understand that argument sentence by sentence. It doesn't matter what happened in the question before. It doesn't matter how many questions you have left in the section. Your job at the moment you start an LR question is to understand the sentences in front of you. If you do that well, if you understand what each sentence is saying, then by the time you're done reading the argument, you should know whether it's an argument. And if it is an argument, you should know whether it's good or bad. And you may have to think about it a little bit, but oftentimes you know by the time you're done reading it that it's not a good argument. And by bad argument, we mean that the conclusion hasn't been proven by the premises. So I want to walk through an example that I'm just going to make up as we go here and tell you what I'm thinking after I'm reading each sentence. Okay? So for example, if you encounter an argument, and this is going to be a short one, but the first sentence says, all cats are nocturnal. Okay? I think it's a very simple sentence, so hopefully we understand it. But if that's what you read, and that was the first sentence that you read, all cats are nocturnal, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm not an expert, but my gut reaction to that claim is that cats are not nocturnal. I thought bats were and things like that, but I actually don't know the formal definition of nocturnal. So my reaction to that claim is, really? I didn't think so, but this is the LSAT, and so we don't care about the inherent truth of these claims, right? We just care about whether we can make sense of them. So I don't think cats are nocturnal, but if that's what you're going to say on the LSAT, fine. I will accept that as true for the sake of argument right now. That said, do we know whether this first claim is a premise or a conclusion? No. You can't tell what a claim is. Any claim can be a premise. Any claim could be a conclusion. It really depends on how it interacts with other claims in the argument, right? So right now I'm thinking, maybe this is being presented as a fact, and if it is, I just have to accept it as true. If it turns out to be something that the author is trying to prove, if the author is trying to prove that cats are nocturnal, well, then it could be up for debate, and it's really going to depend on the evidence that the author provides. Okay, so if the next claim in this argument, remember the first one is all cats are nocturnal, the second claim is all nocturnal animals are gray. First of all, do you think that's true in the real world? No, right? But again, doesn't matter. At this point, does it sound like the first sentence, the first claim is a conclusion that the author is trying to prove? No. At this point, it sounds like we have two facts that are being presented, and so I just have to accept them as true. Is there anything else that you all are thinking when you hear these two claims together? All cats are nocturnal and all nocturnal animals are gray. Cats must be gray, right? You're taking those two ideas and putting them together. Just curious, is that true? Is that necessarily true that all cats have to be gray if we accept those two first claims as true? I think when push comes to shove, that's not necessarily true. So listen to the two claims again. All cats are nocturnal. All nocturnal animals are gray. I'm being a little bit technical. Yeah, Nikki, we need to assume that cats are animals. Okay, now on the LSAT, that's going to fall into this category of reasonable assumption, right? But the better you get at this test, the more you are going to spot these things and then decide consciously, okay, well, no, but that's a reasonable assumption. So notice what I said. I said all cats are nocturnal. And then I said all nocturnal animals are gray. So if cats are animals, then fine. Cats are nocturnal. If they happen to be animals, then all nocturnal animals, which would include cats, are gray, so cats have to be gray. But I didn't say that cats were animals. That seems like a totally reasonable assumption, and it's the kind of assumption that the LSAT is going to require you to make 99% of the time, and they're not going to take issue with it. That said, you should be sensitive to the fact that, literally speaking, those two claims by themselves do not prove that cats are gray. Are you guys okay with this? So it's a conscious decision to accept that assumption as a reasonable assumption, and therefore all cats are gray. But it's very possible that the argument could take issue with that assumption. Yeah, robot cats might not be gray. What kind of cats was I talking about? I don't know, actually. VR cats? Who knows? Anyways, all I've said so far is that all cats are nocturnal, all nocturnal animals are gray. And then if the argument continued and then said, therefore, all cats are gray, I would probably say, the argument seems valid, but it is relying on this assumption that cats are animals. And then it would be anyone's guess as to what the LSAT would then go on and try to test you on with this question. They might just accept the fact that cats are animals and give you like another parallel reasoning argument that's valid. Or they might ask you what's wrong with the argument or what necessarily needs to be assumed. And then you would need to identify that it's assuming that cats are animals. My point here is that as you're reading these arguments, the conclusion can come anywhere if it is an argument. So we didn't know at the beginning whether that first claim was a conclusion or not. And even as you read these claims, you have to distinguish between issues that you take with the argument that have to do with their inherent truth. We generally don't care about whether things are inherently true or not. But then more importantly, if we just accept these claims as true, how do they relate to each other? What can we infer from them if we put them together, if we combine them together? And I don't think it was unreasonable that most of you said that it must be true that cats are gray. But in an ideal world, you get to a point where you spot these kinds of textual differences, right? These discrepancies. And then you're ready for whatever kind of question the test writers are going to throw at you. At the same time, the best test takers are aware of the fact that a lot of assumptions that are made in these arguments are considered reasonable. And so you want to identify them, but also be willing to just say, okay, I'm going to assume that's okay, but be aware of the fact that maybe the correct answer will kind of go after that assumption, because technically it is an assumption.